Well, good morning, everyone. For those of you that don't know,
hundreds of our fellow citizens are now mourning the sudden loss of a loved one.
One thing in particular that has changed in the negative is our body count.
58 people now dead, more than 500 people wounded in a horrific shooting on the Las Vegas Strip. It's the deadliest mass shooting in modern United States history.
The number of injured, we are using the number of 515.
But the gunman just kept shooting from the broken window you can see in the picture there. 10 rifles last night, Sunday night, when the gunman began unloading hundreds of rounds into the crowd.
Now the location in question, the concert hall, we will be in a long process of body recovery.
So many families now just shattered.
We cannot fathom their pain. We cannot imagine their loss.
By now, it's a familiar pattern, a devastating shooting, a national gun dialogue, then gridlock.
BBC Television News now presents a special program on today's mass murder in the capital city.
Good evening. One of history's worst mass murders occurred here in Austin today. By official count tonight, 49 persons were hit by gunfire. There are 16 dead and 33 injured. It started last night when a man reportedly killed his wife and his mother. That same man apparently rounded up an arsenal and supplies this morning and then went to the observation deck of the University of Texas Tower. It was then that terror rained down from the tower.
This is Neil Spelson, Red Rover, on the University of Texas campus. This is a warning to the citizens of Austin. Stay away from the university area. And there is a sniper on the university tower firing at will.
Needless to say, it was a very trying moment. But we will tell you this because we saw it firsthand. The disaster plan, the result of many hours, weeks, months, and years of experience, worked beautifully.
And now the massacre at McDonald's. Yesterday's carnage in San Ysidro, California amounts to the worst single massacre by one man this nation can recall.
The murderer was firing away for 77 minutes. There were 40 people shot.
Good evening. Here's what's happening. At first, everybody thought it was a joke. Somebody's setting off firecrackers in the post office at Edmond, Oklahoma, outside Oklahoma City. But soon it became clear that it wasn't a joke at all. It was a massacre. He shot everybody in sight. Shattered relatives were discovering that someone in the post office had killed 14 people inside, then taken his own life.
In Spokane, Washington today, very familiar questions and the usual disquieting answers. Yesterday, a gunman walked into a military hospital at Fairchild Air Force Base where he killed 4 people and wounded 21 others.
Ranks as the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. It all began shortly before 1 o'clock this afternoon. Police say a man drove his pickup truck through the front of Luby's Cafeteria on Highway 190 in Killeen.
Suddenly, with no warning, a blue pickup truck came crashing through the big glass window of the restaurant's dining room. It was no accident. The driver meant to crash into the dining room, and he kept on accelerating, running over several tables and the people who were sitting at them. The truck finally came to rest completely inside the dining room. When the truck stopped, witnesses say the man started shooting before getting out. He then walked over and shot 2 people he had just run over.
Good afternoon from CBS News. This is Newsbreak. Police say 14 people may be injured after shots, explosions, and a fire were reported at suburban Denver's Columbine High School. Witnesses said 2 or more students started the attack at lunch period. SWAT teams went in to rescue possible hostages.
In northern Minnesota today on the Red Lake Indian Reserve, a 16-year-old Chippewa boy went on a shooting spree.
The news has been dominated, of course, by one event, the mass shooting at an American university, the worst in U.S. history. A 23-year-old man, originally from South Korea, a student at the university, killed 32 people.
We are following breaking news right now at a military base in Texas.
We have just learned there is a possible active shooter situation at Fort Bliss in El Paso.
Noon, we are working developing news on the tragic shooting spree at Fort Hood in Texas. Today, the nation remains in shock after a gunman opened fire on a military base yesterday afternoon.
Sharon, thank you. We're following that breaking news out of Colorado where at least 14 people are dead after a shooting at a movie theater near Denver.
This day when a searing tragedy struck, the worst grade school shooting in U.S. history, at least 27 dead, 20 children, 7 adults.
Start with the moment the holiday gathering among co-workers took a horrific turn. A deadly gun battle with police in the wake of a massacre and manhunt terrorizing San Bernardino, California. This community sits some 60 miles east of Los Angeles.
Good morning, I'm Dara Brown. There's breaking news at this hour from Orlando, where there are reports of a shooting at a nightclub in that city.
News now on CBS 2 News at 11, an active shooter situation on the Las Vegas Strip. It sounds like it began at the Route 91 Harvest Country Music Festival at the Mandalay Bay Resort Events Center in Las Vegas tonight.
After the horrible familiarity of yet another American gun massacre. And it is insane not to acknowledge that it is part of a very clear, very frequently repeating pattern.
I am frustrated, bewildered at the inability to come to terms with figuring out some of the restraints.
I admit that the background checks bill is going to be tough to get 60 votes on, but we still have hope that we can get Republicans to support the bill stopping terrorists from getting weapons.
By diverting the attention to gun control movement, that's not going to solve the problem.
We have had a big influx of people calling, inquiring, trying to schedule classes to be prepared for any instance.
Some of those wonderful people had guns strapped right here, right to their waist or right to their ankle. And this son of a comes out and starts shooting. And one of the people in that room happened to have it and goes boom, boom. You know what? That would have been a beautiful, beautiful sight.
The story of the sniper is not ended. It's not ended for the families who have loved ones to bury and loved ones to care for. It's not ended for the police and other officials, including the governor, who intend to carry out the investigation into this unbelievable tragedy. And it's not ended in the quest for facts. For most of Austin, the events of this day have been more than any could comprehend. This is Neil Spells. Thank you and good evening.